What is Worthy and how long have you run the business?
So Worthy is a business consultancy. I help female and diverse founders just learn how to run a business, because you get people coming to you, entrepreneurs, and they've got brilliant ideas, but they don't necessarily know about the basics.
What were you like in secondary school and were you a business like as a student?
He used to sell sausage rolls. He used to sell his lunch. So actually my brother was more entrepreneurial, and he would save all that money up and then he'd buy. He was really into painting figures, and he'd save up and then buy those figures. Very entrepreneurial. This is what I'm saying to you, be passionate about something. So I really want to make some changes in that space and really just support people and not just make money off them and their problems. So that's my dream. If you're going to become an entrepreneur and a business owner, no one's making me get out of bed every day. I run my own business. I'm my own boss, which sounds fun, but equally, if I don't get up and I don't work, my business is going to fail.
Good morning, my name is Richard Layton. I'm the Entrepreneur in Residence from the University of Liverpool Management School within the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship. We're here for the third episode of the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. Our guest entrepreneur this morning is Carmel Dickinson of Worthy, and we have Aaron and Josh who will be interviewing. The Kids Interview Entrepreneur podcast is part of the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme that we run. I'd like to thank Mrs. Hagan, the careers manager, for her continued support with the programme, and also to King's Leadership Academy Hawthorne's in Bootle, the school that we run the initiative with. And I'm going to hand you over now to our interviewers to ask the questions.
Hi, what is Worthy and how long have you run the business?
So Worthy is a business consultancy. I help female and diverse founders just learn how to run a business, because you get people coming to you, entrepreneurs, and they've got brilliant ideas, but they don't necessarily know about the basics of how to get a business out there and get it running and make money. So I help them with that. And I've been running now, it'll be 5 years in August.
Cool.
What were your favourite subjects and what did you like best about school?
My favourite subjects were English, history. I did really enjoy, we did business studies back then. I'm very old, guys, so, you might be like, what is this?
In a GCSE business studies class.
I was still business studies. Yeah, I didn't know if they'd given it a different name, but yeah, business studies, I really liked it. Although I found we just did a lot of Excel spreadsheets, which I did not like. Yeah, they were my favourite. My favourite thing about school was the learning and reading. I love reading and I love learning, but also just my mates. I just loved hanging out with my mates. That's really great for school friends.
What were you like in secondary school and were you a business like as a student?
Not as much as my brother, who used to sell sausage rolls. He used to sell his lunch. So actually my brother was more entrepreneurial. I was quite gabby and quite showy-offy. I was also really good at art and drama. So I used to really like those kind of creative side of stuff. And I always like the one with the hand up and that kind of thing. I was quite studious. I came out with really good grades. It's interesting that I have found out that I have ADHD. And sometimes I look back at my school life with that lens, and I understand that while I was also really good at school and really studious, every so often I would get in really big trouble. I would do something really naughty. Don't do it, guys. I'm not encouraging this. But the impulsivity of my ADHD would make me sometimes just want to press a red button on myself. And my teachers would be like, I don't really know why she does this. She's a really good student. She's really great. But I was also that ADHD did make me a bit of a daydreamer, which was great at school when you had creative stuff to do. But the more studious stuff like maths and science, I wasn't very good at, because that was quite logical and I had to really concentrate. And I was terrible at maths, to be honest, which is quite funny because I do so much around money now. But yeah, that's kind of so I wouldn't say I don't know whether I was entrepreneurial at school. Entrepreneurship to me is about being creative, so yes, I was, but not so much like business minded.
Cool. If you was to become a student again, what type of business would you set up and why?
Well, I have just pressed go on a new business, which is around ADHD. I can't tell you too much about it, but it's going to be an app. And I think I would do something like that again, because I think the conversation around ADHD and how it shows up for people is very different. We've learned a lot over the past 10, 15 years. And I think I would still like to do something in that space, like helping people, because no, I'm sure this is a great school, but I don't think some of the school systems are set up for neurodivergent children as well, because also the schools are kind of catch up with the learning. So I'd really like to do something around that. I think it'd probably be what I do.
What could schools have done to encourage or support you and others in entrepreneurial skills more?
It's a tricky question. So long ago since I went to school, but I think I don't know what school is like now. Like I said, it's been a long time, and my son is not at school; he's at nursery, so I don't really know. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a lot of structure to school, and actually, really good entrepreneurs and business owners, they need to just spend time and space just almost playing and creating. Even though you're sort of creating something that needs quite a lot of structure and you're problem solving, you do need a lot of time to just break it and fix it and launch it and then relaunch it. And that's kind of how you learn. And I think schools, to encourage that entrepreneurship, could allow children to do, if they're interested in that, to just play around with things and just and be more creative and muck about with stuff a little bit. The other thing is the money side. I do not think that schools do enough around money, about how about sales, about how you make money, about how businesses make money. I think there's just not enough conversation about that. And I think that's really, really important, because ultimately you will not have a successful business if you don't know how to crowdfund, if you don't know how to get investment, and you don't know what's the best way to spend that money. And also your personal finances, how to keep them going alongside something like that. And I think that's really, really, that's one of the most important things, which I don't think gets taught a lot of schools. I'm sorry if I'm not on school people.
After you completed your GCSEs, did you go to sixth form or university? And if so, how did that help you develop your enterprise skills?
I went to sixth form college. I left school and went to a college in Canterbury. And yes, I did go to university as well. I did media studies and sociology, which I think are still very much sort of big passion points for me. Like I think to be a good entrepreneur, you really need to understand people and people's behaviour, because you're kind of fixing a lot of problems that people have in day-to-day life. And sociology really set me up for that. And sometimes I really think about those studies a lot. And I did media studies as well. And ultimately, I ended up working in media for kind of 15 years. And it's still much, quite a big interest point for me. But also, what I struggled with at college and struggled with at university, I know now because of ADHD, but has taught me a lot, is self-discipline. So university, you're kind of left to run a little bit free, aren't you? You've got to turn you go from school, which is very structured, to then suddenly you've got to make sure you turn up yourself for classes. And then when there's other fun stuff to do, like the pub, shouldn't say that maybe to school kids, but stuff like that, and hanging out with your friends and sitting in the sunshine, it's very hard to get yourself into a lecture. But you learn very quickly that if you don't, you're going to fail, and you don't want that. And your parents are on your back and your tutors are on your back. So you start to really get disciplined about, turning up to lectures and handing in your coursework and stuff like that. And I think that does set you up, that discipline, for if you're going to become an entrepreneur and a business owner. No one's making me get out of bed every day. I run my own business. I'm my own boss, which sounds fun, but equally, if I don't get up and I don't work, my business is going to fail. So I think that's where it was kind of helpful. But also the studies that I did were really, really helpful.
What did you do before starting Worthy? And did you work for anyone else or run any other businesses? And what did you learn?
So before Worthy, I was working for about 20 or 15 years. I always lose the math. I think once you get older, it's a night, I tell you. I worked for some very big media corporate businesses. So I worked for The Guardian, I worked for the Times and Sunday Times, I worked for the Telegraph, and these really amazing corporate businesses. And what media really teaches you, what those businesses really need to understand, and podcasting businesses, at News UK, there was Global Radio, etc. Is about audiences. It's about if you do not deliver to those audiences, they are going to stop reading your paper and therefore they're going to stop responding to the advertising, which is how those businesses make money. And I really understood that relationship of a lot of businesses sometimes forget about that end customer. But when you work in the media, you absolutely cannot do that because they're actually, they monetize eyeballs essentially or ears, and they can't ignore that because otherwise the advertisers will not advertise to them because they're losing their audiences. And I'm always still very fascinated in that customer business relationship because I think it's really crucial. I was also in sales for all of that time. And I still think you shouldn't call yourself, this is a Daniel Priestley quote. If you know Daniel Priestley, the entrepreneur, he says, don't call yourself a salesperson, don't call yourself an entrepreneur, call yourself a salesperson in the first year. You're always selling, you're always pitching your idea to someone, whether that's for investment, whether that's someone to buy your product, whether that's interviewing people to come and work for you. It's all sales. And I do a lot of sales training in Worthy now. But after I did that corporate space, I was headhunted by a client to go and work on a startup called Boring Money, which still exists now. And that's where I started my startup journey. And I really loved it. I was so excited by building this business from nothing up to something. And by the time I left that business, it was well into the millions of profit. And, it was doing really well, and it still exists now. And then I did another little startup for a little while, but COVID hit. And I was a commercial director for them. I was trying to help them understand how to make money for that business, but I was very expensive for them. And my heart wasn't in it anymore. I got pregnant with my son and I thought I want to be my own boss so I can be around for my son, but also work the way I want to work. So that's how I kind of started Worthy. But so I had that really great environment of corporates, which they're very different to how you might be an entrepreneur, but they taught me the real core, really strong core strategies that businesses need to have. But then also that startup, that grind, that rolling up your sleeves. Like I learned how to be an event manager. Just because we didn't have an event manager and we couldn't afford one, but we thought events would be really good for us as a business. So I just learned to be an event manager. So you learn all these core skills and you learn how to bootstrap and you learn how to make sure that you've got enough money coming in to keep the lights on essentially. So lots of great learnings in all of those businesses.
What's the best advice that you can give to a student that's looking to start a business at school?
I think always really think about the stuff that really drives you, because being a business owner, like I said, you have to get yourself up out of bed every day, and you might see other people being really successful in other businesses. But if it doesn't get you out of bed in the morning, you're just not going to do it. Or you might think, oh, well, they seem to be making loads of money doing that. You won't make loads of money because you won't have the passion for it. You won't be able to sell it. So just go for the thing that you really, really feel passionate about, because you will get up every morning and you will drive and you will push yourself to do that thing because you will really enjoy it and you will really believe in it. And play to your strengths, like what you're good at, like where do you really excel? Because that's also what you need to do. You need to get up and be successful every day. People need to believe in you, and they need to believe in what you're saying. And they're not going to do that if you just fundamentally don't really know what you're talking about. And you will keep learning as you go on. But you're going to want to learn. And, it's kind of like, is there a class at school that you just find a bit boring and you don't really like doing? Like for me, that was maths. I was never going to be in that sort of world. Whereas my role is, although it's quite strategy based, it's also quite creative, and I'm quite a people person and I get to do that as well. So just really play on your strengths and your passions, I think.
What are the plans for Worthy in the future, and do you believe you'll set up any more businesses?
The plans for Worthy in the future, I want to grow it. So I really, at the moment, it's just me consulting one-to-one. But I did my first event last week and it was really successful. I sort of took the risk and did it. It was a lot of hard work, and I want to do more events in different kind of guises. I love bringing founders and business owners together, especially women, and helping them learn off each other and learn more skills. So lots more of that, and maybe take on a few consultants, under the Worthy umbrella, because I'm finding I haven't got capacity to deal with everybody. I just can't do it. And so maybe there's also kind of group courses I can do and those kind of things. But yeah, like I said, I started a new business right in the middle of this event, and an opportunity came my way. An app developer said to me, I've got some space, I've got some capacity. He's the best guy I know. He's a friend. I trust him. He said, if I've got a window, do you want to go? Do you want to start? And I said, you couldn't have asked me at the wrong time. But that's kind of what happens sometimes. These opportunities come knocking and you can't say no. Financially, I could just about afford it. And I said, let's just do this. And it was funny because I came to your event. I put the ADHD app down and I won the book. And I was like, this is a sign. And then I rang him on the way home and I said, let's just do this. Let's just go. Sometimes you just get a little sign and you just got to go for it. So yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I am launching another business. TBC.
To be continued.
To be continued, yeah. Watch this space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was wondering, do you know when you were talking about the secondary school, how much money did your brother make selling them sausage rolls?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, God. I think probably like 20 or 30p. I'm not sure. But he didn't pay for them, so it was all pure profit. So my dad would put them in the lunchbox and then he'd sell them like 30p or something.
And then he'd go and spend the money on something else.
Yes, you would. Yeah, he'd gather up he was way much better with money than I am, and he would save all that money up and then he'd buy. He was really into painting figures, and he'd save up and then buy those figures. So yeah, very entrepreneurial.
Trade your sausage rolls.
Yeah,
I don't know whether I'd trade biggest dinosaur or ever. I just yeah.
He was also skinnier than me. I liked my sausage roll. I wasn't giving it.
If you went back to be a student now, what type of business would you set up?
I think, did we do that question? About the ADHD app, I think, yeah. I would, definitely go and do my work around ADHD and that kind of thing. So, because I think that's just, it's really important. I think that there's a lot of learning and help and support to be done there.
Why did you decide to set up a consultancy and as opposed to another type of business?
I could see that there was a tiny bit of a gap in the market in the space that I was in. So there's lots of coaching companies and you don't necessarily have to be trained to be a coach. But I think if you're going to coach someone, you should be trained. And I'm not a trained coach. What I could see in the female founder space and diverse founder space is that there was a lot of help and discussion around get over imposter syndrome and confidence and a lot of stuff around mindset for business owners. But there wasn't so much just the core skills and fundamentals that you need to run a business, which is sales, finances and commercials, marketing. So I just really wanted to set that up. So a lot of people come to me and I say, look, I'm a bit no nonsense. So it'll be it's going to be hard stuff. I'm going to want you to kind of really dig deep on what your finances are and how much you're making and how much you want to make and how much profit you're not making, or etc. I'm really going to want you to dig deep around your audience and data. And a lot of people, they don't like all that stuff. They just want to do the fun stuff. But I think it's really important. You can't run a business, I don't think, without all of that stuff. You can hire someone in to do it if you've got that money, but if you haven't, you need to. That's the core, that's the fundamentals. And that was why I believe very strongly in having those kind of core skills. So that's kind of why I set it up as a consultancy. And also I'd worked in consultancy businesses, so I knew that model and that practice. So again, playing back to my skills and my experience, I just thought that was the better model for me to go to at the beginning.
Brilliant. Well done, Josh and Aaron, for the question, especially Aaron about the sausage rolls.
Yeah.
So as maybe best, I'm just going to be thinking of sausage rolls next year.
I'll get my brother on
all day. Yeah. So we have a couple of closing traditions on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. So our first closing tradition is to Simon Squibb and to ask you, what's your dream?
So I'll answer it in the same way that I did when you asked me the question and I won the book. Is around my ADHD app, which is a little bit difficult because I can't talk about it. I've been told legally not to talk about it because people can steal your ideas, guys. But I think I think we've just started this it's exciting conversation around ADHD, neurodiversity, autism, especially for women. For years, they didn't even think women and young girls could get ADHD, which is crazy. And we're all sort of finding out in our 30s, 40s and 50s that we've been suffering with this for years. It's an exciting place because we're starting to really help people, but there's a lot of work to be done. And I think we can look at it differently. And what generally happens with a trend, if you want to call it a trend, it's not a trend, but an emerging space, is that people start to capitalize on it, which has kind of happened in the coaching space. So you'll see people go, oh, look, there's somewhere I can make some money. And there's some really greedy people in that space. And hopefully you won't be those type of entrepreneurs. You'll be the entrepreneurs that really want to help people. And I can see that happening with ADHD. I can see people starting to go, we could make money off these people because they're struggling. So we're going to sell them all this stuff and they're going to buy it because they're desperate. And I don't like that. And it really annoys me. I nearly swore then on the children's podcast. It gets me so angry, but can you feel my passion? This is what I'm saying to you, be passionate about something. So I really want to make some changes in that space and really just support people and not just make money off them and their problems. So yeah, so that's my dream.
I remember hearing before as well, and I sort of believe girls are less likely to get diagnosed with things like that. So obviously it's important to not only sort of raise an awareness about that, but obviously then create a solution to sort of the challenges or issues that other people have. Our second closing tradition on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast is to Stephen Bartlett you.
Yeah.
So you're going to select one of the Diary of a CEO cards. We've got 2 packs. I have no idea what the difference between 2 packs, but
one's got gold on it. I'm going to
let's go for the gold one. Yeah, and then you've got to select a card out of it. So
thinking it opens that now. She won't even open it. I'm going to pick one from the middle.
And should we give it to Aaron and he can read it to you?
What is your proudest moment?
Proudest moment?
Proudest moment.
I mean, having my son as a mother, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you can get very sucked up in your business and it can become your life, but there's still all these beautiful life moments outside that you will always enjoy and you need to kind of go back to. But I think just starting the business in the beginning, and I've been around for 5 years, and to be honest, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I should say this. I didn't really know what I was doing when I started. I had like a vague idea, and I was pregnant, and I knew that I was going to have to go on maternity leave in less than 9 months. So it was a stupid thing to start a business in that way, but I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for my future. And then I worked really hard during that pregnancy. It was COVID, so I wouldn't recommend that to anyone who's pregnant now. But I just worked really, really hard because I was just sitting around the house. So I just worked and I had 8 clients and I paid for my maternity leave. I had lovely 9 months off. And then I came back to the business and people were sort of knocking on my door. They'd heard about the work that I'd done. And then I went back to it and I built my business around my being a mother. I only work 4 days a week. I still spend Fridays with my son. And yeah, just that starting off and just figuring it out by myself and just saying to myself, you can do this the way you want to do it. And that's what's so exciting about entrepreneurship is you can take the rule book, rip it up, make it fit into your life, build it around your passions. And I think, yeah, that's probably the proudest thing was those early days of just going for it. And I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. I know we talked about it, but being ADHD, you're very scared of rejection and very scared of failure. But that just didn't seem to exist for me. It was I just had to go out there and I had to do it and I had to make it happen. So those early days are really tough, just convincing yourself that you're doing the right thing. In those early days, it's also very easy to get a job because you're still sort of fresh out the job market. So people were still offering me work when they heard that I was out. Saying, oh, do you want to come back here? Do you want to work here? So the offer of money and safety was there, but I didn't take it. I carried on. And now 5 years later, I'm still here and launching another business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brilliant. It's nice that you have that flexibility and freedom to spend time with sort of little one or little ones in their future potentially. And I remember going to see Simon Swibb talking. They homeschool their son, but he takes every Thursday off to spend the time with them. And I think obviously when people get together and look to have children, obviously traditionally, I guess sort of the man stays and works, and then the female looks after the children. But actually, I think entrepreneurship, is a great way to actually sort of change that dynamic. Because quite often it is unfair that one of the parents obviously has to take time out to commit to that, and then obviously there's a bit of a career break. The other one in the relationship is getting more experience and sort of moving forward. So I think we do need to do not only sort of more to support the parent who sort of stays and does that initial kind of work. I think some other countries do some really great things around tax breaks where they give the individual that stays home, which I'd like to see. But equally, another, not that you haven't got enough to do for a newborn, especially the first time round. But actually, I do think that entrepreneurship is a great way, whether it is the female or the male who sort of stays to, if you've got someone who's got that secure income, then actually the other person can take that risk, that chance, and actually grow something that could be more flexible around having children. But equally, actually, if that became really successful, then actually as a family, a bit like Simon Squib and his wife's, the Fluid, the marketing agency that they set up and sold, they ran that together. So it'd be nice to see more people who are going into parenthood actually to look at entrepreneurship as sort of a really sort of good option.
And that's what my business is all about. Like Worthy is all about knowing your true worth and being able to achieve it. There's lots of people out there that are sitting in the corporate space or sitting in the workspace with these amazing skills, which they could fundamentally charge 2, 3, 4, 5 times more if they were to put it under a bracket of a business or freelance, and they could work, I earn the same money that I did at my highest, working 4 days a week, and I also kind of use the line like success on your own terms. Some people don't want to earn loads of money; they do just want to work 2 days a week, and they just want they want to have a nice simple life. Think about what success means for you, and you can create that world. Absolutely, that 9 to 5, that grind, that hustle. That you see that in the entrepreneur space, you see it in the corporate space. That doesn't have to exist for you if you don't want it. That's a rule book that was written by other people, and you can completely change it. And there are people out there that are completely changing it, and you can live your life in what success means for you in a way that suits you, suits your family. All of that kind of stuff. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, but for me personally, entrepreneurship is a great way to break that rule book. Right, we'll open it up to questions. The other thing that I picked up that I really loved, you were like, what's one thing that can get you out of bed in the morning? And I was like, alarm clocks like that. Then suddenly my mind was like, alarm clocks are really boring. Like someone should create really cool, interesting alarm clocks. So as you were kind of answering, as you were asking your questions, you were talking about, I was thinking like, what type of alarm clock's going to end? Like that's pretty much the only thing that does get me out of bed. But we've all got, I guess, sausage roll alarm clocks. There you go. You can get a collaboration with Grants going right in now. So we're looking for a sponsor for the podcast. So has anyone got any students in the audience got any questions or any teachers? Yeah, brilliant, awesome. Give me 2 secs. I'll just come with the microphone.
Do you think it's important that you do spend time in forums like this inspiring the next generation of female and neurodiverse entrepreneurs?
Yes, absolutely. Me and Richard were talking about this earlier. Santander just did a survey with Female Founders Rise, where they said that only 80% of school children could name 80% of children that were surveyed, like they couldn't name a female founder. So it's only like 20% of them that could name a female founder or business owner, and that's not great. This entrepreneurial landscape, there's no gender to it. There's no race to it. Like if you've got a brilliant idea and you've got the tenacity, you can absolutely start a business. And there's blocks along the way, but more blocks perhaps if you are a person of color, if you're LGBTQ+, if you are a woman, there's not as much investment being given to you out there. And that's why it's important that we all just keep going, because the more of us that become successful in business, the more of us will then be able to invest in other businesses, and we kind of change the landscape. So it's really important. You can't, what the saying is, you can't beat what you can't see. So it's just really important for more and more people, and for me to be in this forum and see the young women here. I don't know about the young men here. You know, I'm not going to make any stereotypes about, you know, their sexuality or whether they're neurodivergent or anything like that. But you know, to be able to show people that even if you kind of fall into one of those diverse categories, that you can still make it. And I just want to keep telling people that they can. So it's really important.
Other questions?
I've just got a comment, just as first of all say thank you, Carmel. I met you at the event, my last week, and back my sister works in television. She's making a television program about ADHD at the moment. She works for Plum Pictures, and I told her about the event last week when you followed us into the lift, because you'd capitalised on one of the fact that one of our year 8 students had a similar idea, and what I thought was absolutely inspirational was, like, just as you said, you grab every moment, and you did not let us get away without so that's just a bit about letting that child know that A, her idea was inspirational, and B, that you were going to go out of your way to support her, including sharing the lift with us all the way down. And I think that if you can dream it, you can do it attitude, and being a role model for your women, because I think traditionally they think they just go through school and then just almost follow the steps. So it's almost being brave enough and having the grit to step outside your comfort zone. But also when I told my sister about you, she was really keen to hook up, find a little bit more about you, and the student that we were talking about. So in terms of just those special little moments, from small things, big things grow. And I think that's the little bit of the lesson that you are teaching us here today. And your enthusiasm and your clarity of message today is inspirational. So just for me as a head teacher, I'm not a typical head teacher. I come from an art background. I'm probably a statistic that's probably less than 1% of the whole country. But you have to believe that despite where you've come from, that if it motivates you and get you out of bed in the morning, then you need to keep doing it. And eventually people will notice, and if you stick to your goals, then it will absolutely happen. And so the fact that you are spreading that, and I suppose my question is, how can we get more of our students beyond the business forum here, our year 7s, you know, for a whole year group to listen to a small portion of what you're saying would be really, really good to set up. So I just want to say thank you.
No, my absolute pleasure. And I think it's sort of answering your question and sort of on your points there is like, it's such an important lesson is like around connection and networking. You know, those students, they put themselves out, they put themselves on the stage. You know, some of them you could see that, you know, they had nerves there. I always get nervous when I get on a stage now to this day. The adrenaline starts to come and you start shaking. And, you know, so for them to do that and put themselves out there. And it was Sophia, was it Sophia? Yeah, I haven't emailed her yet, I will admit that, but she's on my list because I had my event. But she put herself out in that room, and just so happened with me in that room, and I have connections in that space, which I would love to connect her to. And, you know, and now I'm going to hopefully get to chat to your sister because you heard me talk about something, and it's all about connections and just having those conversations and putting yourself in rooms and sort of, you know, not always speaking up. You can just go and introduce yourself to someone who else, you know, she had spoken up, she talked about herself. And I've just realised that I've got their pronouns wrong. They had stood up and they had talked about what they wanted to do. And so they attracted me. So it could be that someone attracts you, they're talking about something that is similar to your passions, and you just go and talk to them and just have that conversation. That connection and that ability to ask. I mean, me and Richard, I met someone, I was introduced to Richard, we went and had coffee, now I'm sitting here. It's just so important, just making those connections every single chance you get, really.
And you are coming in as well into school for our Year 8 Local Entrepreneurs Challenge, so you will be coming in, setting one of the classes a challenge. And the great thing that we're talking about there is one of the first things that we teach people that want to be entrepreneurs is the elevator pitch. So it's great that that's coming to play very early on as well. Yeah. Is there any more questions from anybody? We're almost at time, aren't we? I think so. So yeah, that's a brilliant place to end. Thanks ever so much for everyone's time and attention today. I hope everyone's enjoyed the third Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. Thanks to Josh and Aaron again for the questions, and Carmel coming in and giving their time. And thanks to Jay, who obviously helps us record the podcast, and Mrs. Hagan, and so Miss as well for their support. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.